Well, hello and welcome to the third video in this beginner's guide to Adobe After Effects. So in this tutorial, we're going to kick things off from the very start. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the Adobe After Effects interface. Our topics in this lessons are right here as follows, and I quote, Adobe After Effects interface, Adobe After Effects panels, and organized assets. So if you have After Effects open right now and you wish to follow along, that's great. You're going to first need to come up here to the window and scroll down to Workspace, and then select All Panels. So this is just to make sure that we're all on the same setup here. All right, so next we must go to this window, Workspace, and then scroll down and select Reset All Panels. All right, so it will then reset the interface to all the panels' default layout, and you should wind up with something that looks like this. So what you should have here are the default settings, and here you can see all the key panels. Now don't worry if your setup is not exactly the same as mine on versions of After Effects before 2017. The panels on the far right here have just come all the way down the side of the screen instead of on top of this panel here. But for now, you don't have to worry too much about that. Just follow along and you should be fine. I'll be talking you through most of this shortly, though. I just want to mention that if you're using version earlier than Adobe After Effects 2018, you might be looking at the light interface. But for now, if for whatever reason you wish to toggle the interface color, you can come right into here, After Effects on the top toolbar for Mac, for PC. This is in Edit. Scroll down to Preferences and select Appearance. So when you click on it, the Preferences menu will appear. And if you look down here with, look for Brightness, and here it is, you can toggle the lightness and the darkness just by clicking and dragging the switch. Now I kind of like it dark, so I'm going to select the darkest option, click OK. So let's get into it, take a closer look at the interface. Now all of this might look a little complex right now. I remember the first time I looked at it, it's like, whoa. But that means that you can do a lot with it, right? But don't worry, it is fairly straightforward. So at this point, it's going to help to break down the interface into 5 key sections. One is the composition panel. So that's here in the center. 2, the timeline panel, down here at the bottom. 3, the project panel, which is over here on the left side of the screen. 4, the tools panel, and that's pretty much on the top of the screen here. And 5, a variety of work panels are over here on the right. So the first thing I want to draw your attention to is the timeline panel. Now this is that long panel that runs along the bottom of the screen down here. So of course it's one of the main panels in After Effects, and it's in this panel where we're going to manage our project elements over time. So the first thing to point out here is indeed the timeline across the top panel. So it represents the length of time of this particular composition. Now below this, we can see the layers that make up the particular composition, each one representing a particular element in the video presentation. So in the timeline panel, layers are displayed as bars from left to right that indicate their presence along the timeline in a particular order and in a particular hierarchy. Now on the left side of the panel, we can see the names of the layers with the icons that indicate which type of media they are. And to the left and right of these are a bunch of switches and modes that can be applied to the layers. So at the bottom of the panel, just under the layer bars, you will see a zoom indicator. So we can use this to zoom in and out of the layers on the timeline, as well as we can use this to fine-tune applied effects. Now, notice as you zoom in, the bar on the right gets smaller, And this is used to click and drag through the timeline when zoomed in. And I'll just zoom back out. And then lastly, I want to mention to the left of this in the far left corner and just next to the zoom toggle are some buttons. And this can toggle the view of some of the switches and modes that can be applied to the layers above. And if I click these, we can see that they appear next to the layer name. So now I'm just going to toggle these off. Now, of course, there's lots more to learn about the timeline panel, which I will be going into more detail in the next video, but for now, I just want to give you the general overview, so we'll move on. The next panel I want to draw your attention to is the composition panel. So this is the big panel in the center of the interface, and it gives a visual preview of the project that we are working on. So notice, as you click on the various elements in the preview, you will see the layer appear highlighted in the timeline panel and its position in the layer hierarchy. So now if we look carefully at the bottom of the comp panel, we can see a number of buttons and switches here regarding the preview panel above. Now we will be going over these in a bit more detail as we use them later on in the course, but I just want you to know where they are, and the key tools to know about when you're first starting out are here: magnification, grid and guide options, preview time, and resolution display. Now the magnification ratio allows us to zoom in and out of the visual composition to a variety of percentages within the composition panel. So that way you can get closer to some of the elements and fine-tune some of your animations. Now, if I click 100%, the canvas area will zoom in 100%. And if I click the Fit option, this will fit the composition screen nicely to my currently sized panel. Now, to the right of this, we have the grid and guide options. So by clicking on this, you'll just be able to activate a series of grids and guides, such as the title action safe area, proportional grid, and activate the grid, guides, and rules. So once you activate, you'll have to click these again to turn them off. And then to the right of all this, we have the preview time. So it's an indication of where the time indicator is located on the timeline. All right, so right next to this, we've got the resolution factor. So right now it's set to full. So if I click this and hit quarter, you will see the composition in the preview panel become pixelated a little bit. And this is a quarter of full resolution. So I'll pop this back to full. Now, of course, this is per your computer, but it's for the performance and workflow streamlining. It just depends upon what you're looking for. Sometimes it can be clunky and slow when you preview video and animations at full resolution. So if we set the resolution to low, it'll preview faster. Now I want to demonstrate how this works in the next video. And I want to show you this. If we double click on the layer named background on the left, the background layer will appear in another tab at the top of the composition panel, right? Now, this is also a way to isolate a layer so that you can inspect it. Now, in this particular instance, as you scroll across the timeline, you'll not be able to see any of your layers in the composition panel above. Now, as a beginner, you might wonder, hey, wait a minute, my composition went away. Well, don't worry about it. If you look carefully in the composition tab at the top, you'll see your composition is still there, but just on a separate tab on the left. Now, if you ever find that you have accidentally double-clicked a layer and you can't see your composition, just remember that you can simply close down a tab in the composition panel at the top, or click back on your main composition on the left over here to come back to your main composition. All right, so remember to keep this in mind, as you may find yourself lost. I can still find myself lost from time to time. I can have a lot of tabs open at once. Now, the next panel that I want to draw your attention to is the project panel. So it's this panel that's typically placed on the left-hand side of the interface, and this panel contains all the elements that make up the video project. So when we bring in footage, images, audio files, for example, into our project, this is where they're going to be placed. Now, a project may include hundreds of individual elements. This panel allows you to carefully organize your elements into folders, as you can see here. So if I click and expand these, we can see the contents. And if you click down on the folders here, you can see how the elements have been changed and rearranged and what they contain. Now, the next panel that I want to draw your attention to is the Tools panel. So in After Effects, this panel runs across the top of the interface and contains all the tools that we can use, even if you're not going to use them. So as you can see here, we've got tons of icons. And then to activate a tool, we simply click it or press one of the many shortcut buttons on the keyboard. Now we know which tool is activated because it will be highlighted in blue. Now in After Effects, we typically use a lot of tools. You will also notice that as we use the tool, the mouse will change. The cursor is going to change to indicate what tool that we have presently activated. So now if we move up to the top of the window, we can see the standard bar across the top from File across through to View, Window, and Help. From here, we can access various properties controls and initiate some of the creative features in After Effects. But for now, we're not going to get much into that because it does tend to get a little complex, especially all at once. So let's move on over to the far right-hand side, and we have a set of panels here. So these panels are essential in order to produce our work and control many of the variables in an After Effects project. And they are kept neatly and organized here to the right of the screen interface. Right now, they appear as a stack. Now, in more recent versions of After Effects, in order to activate them, you just click on the name of the panel. And if you just click once, it'll open. Now, some of you may be familiar with the other programs like Illustrator and Photoshop, and you're going to recognize how you control some of these panels. But now, one of the panels that you will become familiar with later on in the course is the Effects and Presets panel. This panel includes a lot of visual effects and preset animations, and we can apply these to our layer elements in the Timeline panel. Show you how to do that a little bit later, but this is where we're going to be coming over to access them. So right now we're looking at all of the panels in After Effects. Now you can customize a workspace so that you can tweak the panels that you see here. For example, if I come up to Window and scroll across to Workspace, you can see a few options up in here. We have options from animation to text, and then by selecting any of these, we can change the interface as well as the panels that we see. So if you click on the standard, for example, you see that some of the panels will now disappear. And by clicking on the variety of workspaces, we can customize the panels that we see. So now back on standard, if you want to reveal some of the panels that are not currently shown, we can come up in here to Window, and here we will see the ultimate list of panels. Here they all are. And we could certainly use a lot of them if they're not active. So to activate one, just click on it. Let's take, for example, Paragraph. So click on it, and it will appear in the panel stack on the right. It also works this way to remove panels that you don't want to be looking at. So go back up to Window, and this time if we want to take away a panel, just simply click on the one that's currently checked to deactivate it. Now if we click on Paragraph again, it's going to take it away from the panel stack. Now, As you activate and deactivate panels and move them around to best suit your needs, you're going to be able to save according to a customized workspace. So by coming up to the window, scroll across to Workspace, and then scroll down to Save as New Workspace. And you can name your new workspace, and I'm just going to call mine My Workspace. Click OK. Now if I come back up to Window and scroll across to Workspace, I see my new workspace from the list. And that, my friends, is pretty cool. All right, so that's a brief introduction to the After Effects interface. So let me just sum it up by saying that the After Effects interface consists of 5 different sections. Also, all the panels can be organized according to your particular workflow. But there are some templates here to get you started. So if you want to, why don't you go ahead and take a short break, familiarize yourself with the interface some more if you want. But I want to see you in the next video.